Boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to hear something strange? Come with me and you will too learn what's fucked with Doctor Who. Happy Halloween, happy Ghouliween, happy Kwanzaa. It's a big week for the homies. We've made it to the end of another year of Broke Canon, so it's time to bust out the real scary stuff. The real scary stuff. For our first weird Doctor Who continuity fact of the day, let's go to the ghost of Halloween's past. Something wicked this way comes. Do I mean this episode of Docky Who, or do I mean today's guest? Hello, Michelle.
Hi, everybody. I challenged Samuel to do something fun for this, which was read the novelization. The novelization of Witchfinders came out before we watched this, and I was reading and I was like, oh, I really like this episode.
The book is good. It's great. It made me warm up to a story I hated on broadcast.
And it sets up what I think is a very, very good part of the book, which is the final 2 chapters.
We're doing it. Let's do it.
Throughout the book, you get these chapters where they're written from Willa's perspective, but it's an older Willa, and she's asking the Doctor to help her because she's been imprisoned and she's going to be executed. And at the end of the book, it's revealed that Willa, after the story, she went on to be like a traveling nurse. And then one day, somebody accused her of witchcraft. She writes a letter, and the Doctor saves her right before she gets executed and drops her off with Clara and a shooter. Like, Willa Twinston is hanging out with Clara and a Schiller at the end of the universe. And I was like, that is really cool, but also, wow, that came out of nowhere.
Lesbians hanging out in space. And they, for some reason, have decided they are now the 3 Norns of Norse mythology?
Yeah. I got that as to be like a reference to the 3 witches from
Macbeth.
Yeah.
Ooh. Ha ha ha, what a great extract from 2 charismatic young men. We know that Ashilda survived the witch trials, but the fact that Clara and her new girlfriend have run off to defy death, only to then call themselves gods, is a very funny mental image. What is going on in that diner? I always assumed Norns were demigods, but no. Specifically, they are a coven of 3 wise women, spinners, who determined every allotted lifespan. They had the shitty gummy eyes. They spun out the thread of life and measured its length. Clara Oswald, Ashilda, and now the girl from the Witchfinders all live lives of dramatic irony. Much like in Norse legend, there is one of the past, the one of the present, and one of the further past. Thank you for that detail, Joy Wilkinson, the only writer post-Hellbent to actually envision a future for Clara Oswald. I always thought, yeah, it's 50% female independence or companion autonomy, and 50% metaphor. I've never actually thought about what Ashilda and Clara Oswald are getting up to. If I had to guess, I'd say various sex acts. There have been many stories in the Doctor Who universe centered around the witch trials. This is unsurprising. It invites supernatural stories to devalue the actual lived experience of horrible atrocities and mass hysteria. I need to calm down today. The question arises, if the Doctor and company are present for so many of these witch trials, how haven't they been recognized yet? Because really, there's a ton. Witch Hunt, the Witch Hunters, the Witch Finders. 4 and Leela experience witch trials in the Devil's Armada. There's The Witch from the Well that has Mary Shelley and the 8th Doctor. Apparently I haven't listened to this one. Beats me. Plague of the Daleks, Ghost Walk. The 5th Doctor loves a good witch trial. The 1st Doctor bust out Elizabeth Proctor from the events of The Crucible. The Witch Hunters is literally just Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible, but with the Doctor Who company in there. I know it's not possible to plagiarize an actual historical event, but I think they've still got a good case. The Doctor Who magazine comic Witch Hunt is the most interesting. A story where Clara is sent back in time as a goof, literally just a prank, but Clara Oswald coolly handles this in a way the Doctor would, by framing somebody for witchcraft. Clara, you know that witches aren't real. Maybe they are. Actually, they definitely are about 5 times over. Let's not even get into all of the evil, malevolent forces that sort of hang around to Salem witch trials. Witch trials aren't like this recurring thing in history. The Bible might tell you to kill witches, but it really was just a handful of famous sites of mass hysteria. But the Doctor and his friends are drawn to them like moths to a flame. At this point, there are so many time travelers circling these events that they outnumber any actual witches that these stories provide. Forget the Morax or the Fendal or the Vituperon. Maybe there'd be less hysteria about magical outsiders if Time Lords didn't keep visiting Doctor. But honestly, witches are real in this universe, so who cares? King James was right to kill those countless innocents, and maybe Abigail was onto something. In the Doctor Who universe, their villages objectively have been infiltrated by psychic aliens. Technically, The Witchfinders is a sequel story to both The Demons and Imager the Fendal, as the witch myth is an invention by those evil forces spread into our culture. This story has been told so many times that everybody present at all of these events should be able to recognize a blue box, and the various eccentric people that come out of them. Fact number 2! Romana isn't in Destiny of the Daleks. Sorry. Huh? I've seen Destiny of the Daleks. I've watched that one. She's there, see? In all 4 parts. It's actually a crucial story for her as a character, as it goes on to affect her reason for leaving the TARDIS, her later trauma at the hands of the Daleks, and her fears of them going into the Time War. But no, because Romana didn't experience the events of Destiny of the Daleks. No quarry, no Daleks, no disco. Romana's trying to fend off a regeneration that's just on the horizon. This bit of prose telling us it was the accumulated damage of the key to time and just built up hurt, wear and tear throughout the years. She's in the TARDIS wardrobe about to pick out a new look when she is accosted by the TARDIS in the form of an old witch. For unexplained reasons, this shape-shifting TARDIS wardrobe assistant has its own personality, can speak, and has a desire to play a prank on the Doctor. Romana doesn't have time for this. She's locked herself in the wardrobe trying to die. Give a woman some peace to regenerate. I'm always saying this. So Araj takes the form of Princess Astra from the last adventure and traps Romana in the room. Cut back to the Doctor's side of things.
What are you doing here?
Regenerating. Do you like it?
Regenerating?
Remember this makeover montage from Destiny of the Daleks? That's not Romana. The TARDIS has attacked one of the Doctor's companions, aggressively freezing them in time, has cosplayed as her, impersonated her, that's fraud, and went out and had a whole Dalek adventure. Eventually, Araj returns to tell her about Davros and Daleks and Movellans, and that the Doctor was none the wiser. Imagine sitting down with the late Douglas Adams and telling him that somebody made this bizarre augmentation to his story. I'm sure that he would politely nod along, and then shrug. Romana 2's first ever appearance is Nightmare of Eden. This was, in effect, the first time that the TARDIS presented itself as a humanoid woman, something that it can apparently do with its own personality and wants and desires anytime it wishes.
I just wanted to say hello. Hello, Doctor. It's so very, very nice to meet you. Please.
No, thank you. Not today.
Araj is still in the TARDIS wardrobe, trying on outfits or whatever the fuck. So that's actually quite silly. I expect nothing less from a Doctor Who short trip. I've had something like this before. Oh yeah, the first human we see in the series, the police officer walking around Totter's Lane. That's not a human either. That's, you guessed it, the TARDIS again. What these superfluous details add to the series, I don't know. But the writer of this story, Mark Michalowski, went on to write a lot of Doctor Who. Lots of it just as ridiculous. Sometimes you write a story because you have a creative vision, and sometimes you gotta write a story just because you can. And lastly, I depart with a third fact. We've covered witches. Let's talk about something even more ghoulish. Nicholas Briggs.
What a bloody horrible, arrogant and mean-minded review there.
Or as I like to call him, Nick, what a bloody horrible, arrogant and mean-minded review there, Briggs. He's not too good at the old criticism. But Briggs is a pioneer of a fan. It can't be understated. The sheer producing legwork he did for Doctor Who in the wilderness years, he deserves a lot of credit. I think we all deserve credit, actually. Specifically, writing credits. On Doctor Who Multimedia, Briggs. Some people have criticised Big Finish, and actually this entire generation of fan, as ladder-pulling anoraks. I don't know who would say that. Because, that's not a nice thing to say about someone. What a bloody horrible, arrogant, and mean-minded review. And yet I still love him. There's something inescapably dorky and lovable about somebody who casts themselves as their own fan doctor in their own fan work. And that's exactly what he did in the pre-Big Finish days. Nick Briggs is the Doctor.
Sometimes it just takes a while to win them over. They'll see.
This incarnation of the Doctor, sometimes dubbed the Nth Doctor, appeared in 2 separate fan audio series. And being a fan creation of the Wilderness Years, this is one of the few Doctors whose run I know nothing about. Just the wiki, some blogs, and some hearsay. And if anybody ever does listen to all 4 seasons of The Time Ravagers, give me a bell. The Nick Briggs Doctor shared something striking in common with Paul McGann's incarnation. No, not the hair, but that they were both subject to amnesia. The Nth Doctor forgot his name and who he was and went by the name Fred for most of his adventures. Steeped in mystery, his Doctor travelled with Greg and Nadia. I have it on good knowledge that a lot of Big Finish ideas actually germinated here. The Daleks almost killed by a mutant wasp. An artificial companion called Rhea. The introduction of the Gresselins. Nick Briggs' own baddies that later show up in Minuet in Hell.
The legends of Gallifrey speak of a world where everything is horror.
You're a bit of a sad case, aren't you?
So they are like canon. The Nth Doctor was a gentleman, a world-weary scientist explorer power fantasy. No, wait, sorry, not that last one. Fun fact, he had his hair shaved off by Daleks. Fantastic. And ever since, the idea of a Nick Briggs incarnation of the Doctor hasn't really gone away. The now spread out Wilderness fans were injecting him everywhere they could, from audiovisuals to Doctor Who magazine. He's in the background of Party Animals, getting down and drinking with Spider-Man and Optimus Prime. There was once a stage play adaptation of the Dalek Master Plan. The Doctor was caught in the Dalek's time destructor and regenerated into who else but Nick Briggs. In the Doctor Who Unbound series, the Doctor is sent into exile as Nick Briggs. That one's especially funny because it is explicitly stated in the text that this is the only Doctor incarnation to commit suicide. No, I don't mean like without witness, without reward, self-sacrifice. I mean like a really bad evening. And of course, when a Time Lord commits suicide with the intention of taking their own life, they change sex. That's a bit of a weird modern reading to that. This pathetic alternate second Doctor, played by Nick Briggs, then went on to regenerate into Arabella Weir, a depressed, alcoholic, chain-smoking Doctor who works in the local Asda. And it is probably the most thoroughly embarrassing thing on both her and David Tennant's CVs.
Whenever I've been here in London before, I've always been, otherwise occupied.
Oh, with all that doctoring you used to do.
Yes.
Turning to alcoholism and takeaways and her job at Asda, presumably to recover from the trauma of being Nick Briggs. This story is classist, man. In the 9th Doctor Chronicles, Nick Briggs takes the main role and yet again plays Doctor Who.
Hello, I'm the Doctor. Hey, what's going on round here?
An unspecified incarnation of the Doctor, travelling with Rose Tyler and Adam Mitchell, who remains a mystery to us to this day.
You know what? It's amazing to see you up close and everything, but I think on balance it's best if I... Run!
In Wormwood, we meet this man.
I'm the Dr. Harish, for the love of stories.
And all of a sudden, it's the next Doctor, as he introduces himself as a future incarnation. Timeless child? No, actually, it's much more interesting. Out there somewhere, there will always be Nick Briggs Doctors. He's like Thanos. He's inevitable. As if it wasn't enough for him to be every single Dalek, Cyberman, Jadoon, and Ice Warrior. That big, lovable face has permeated onto Doctor Who forever. If only someone were to pen a fictional parody of this phenomenon. I think a person releasing that kind of video would deserve lots of likes and subscribers, personally. Thank you for watching, thank you for having me for another season. Have a fantastic Halloween.
They'll be rude about something you've written, or say something fairly derogatory about it anyway, or dismissive. And then, if you comment on it, they are absolutely appalled that you would have the sheer gall to make a comment about their review. And I think, well, you're reviewing me, so I'll review you. Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't comment, and I'm not saying you shouldn't hate my work. But if you hate it in my direction, I'm probably going to say something mean back to you, since you've said something mean to me. That's all.